Toe back with another video, and it is a story time. And I want to be honest with you guys. I've been avoiding this story time. I've been avoiding this story time for like a month now. But with you guys watching, I want to be as transparent as possible. It's not all about the fashion and the going out and what I bought and all jovial stuff. I want to be transparent with you guys in terms of what I go through on a daily in terms of like health and life and whatnot. So this story time is going to be how I found out I was diabetic. Yeah, I am diabetic, guys. So let's start this story time. So I have diabetes. I'm sure we're familiar with what diabetes is. We probably have dealt with it within our family. It could be a grandparent, one of our parents, a sibling, a aunt or uncle. I have a little thing on what diabetes is. So diabetes is a disease which your body either can't produce insulin or can't properly use insulin it produces. Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas. Insulin's role is to regulate the amount of blood sugar or sugar in your blood. Blood sugar must be carefully regulated to ensure that the body functions properly. Too much blood sugar can cause damage to your organs, blood vessels, and nerves. Your body also needs insulin in order to use sugar for energy. So that is what diabetes is. So a lot of people use either medication or insulin. So they either use pills or they have to poke themselves. So that's what diabetes is, or, you know. So let's get into the story time. This is how I found out I was diabetic. So I am going to just give you like a little rundown before the rundown. So I was never a big person in my appearance. I was never a big person. I could show you how I looked. I had a little weight. I want to call it baby weight. So this is how I used to look. But I was never a big person. With diabetes, it does run in my family. My grandmother was the only person within my family that had diabetes. I think distant family members had it, but like within my immediate family, my grandmother was the only one. So I am the first child of my grandparents or my grandmother's kid. What I meant to say is I am the first grandchild diagnosed with diabetes. That's what I meant to say. So I'm gonna jump into the story. I'm gonna jump into the end of May of 2017 and then leading up to finding out I was diabetic. So I was doing my thing. I wasn't really like doing anything out of the ordinary. I was just living life. At this point in time, I just got myself a car in February. I was working down on like Lakeshore. I was doing my thing. I remember this is where I started to feel off within my body. And I can't forget this day. The job that I work at, they sent us all a letter. And it was just saying that they're gonna do a bunch of shaking up within the department that we're in. And I can't forget, I opened the letter at this cafe that I went to with a friend, Dimitri's. If you're not familiar with Dimitri's, it's like a sugar cafe. They have sundaes, ice creams, all kind of dessert type foods that definitely a diabetic should not be at. But at that time, I didn't know I was diabetic. But I definitely did enjoy myself. But I remember opening the letter, reading the letter, and just being stressed out. I was like, what does this mean for myself? I just got myself a brand new car. I was just like, how am I gonna make payments? How am I gonna make insurance? Blase, blase. My friend at the time was telling me like, yo, don't worry, you'll be fine. I don't think it's that serious. Going on with my month, life, year, I was just doing the regular. I wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. As I said, I was a kid. I was a person though. I did love myself a sweet. I loved myself cakes. I liked like the little candies. I loved myself a good treat. At this point though, my birthday was coming up. So I decided, and this was something I did every year. I decided to cut certain things off. I didn't want to drink sugars. I didn't want to eat certain things. I just wanted to like look presentable for my birthday, which I mean, that's everyone. They have like some sort of goal when it comes to their birthday. Um, yeah, so I was doing that, but I noticed like the weight that I had on was like dropping really fast. And I used to always use the washroom constantly. Like using the washroom for me leading up to finding out was a problem. Like I would use the washroom, come back, and like have to use the washroom once again. Like it was something that was like on on a like time thing. Like it was just like I had to go, I had to go, I had to go, I had to go. But anyways, that was something that I noticed that was like off. And I'm like, why am I always using the washroom? I always found myself being dehydrated as well. I used to like drink water to the tea. Like I used to always drink water and always never understood why I had to drink water. But anyways, I never thought too much into it. I was just like, whatever. So now we're in June, and I remember I had to do a police check. So I had to do a police check, and I decided to drive. Obviously, you have to drive in life, but I drove out to do my police check, and I remember it was a distance that I had to drive, and I remember my vision. Like I was on the highway and I was just driving, and my vision just went out. Like I couldn't see anything. Everything just, when you wake up and like you're in a fog, that's how my vision was. Like right off, like I was exiting the highway, my vision just went crazy. And I was like, what does this mean? Like, what's wrong with my eyes? And I wear glasses normally. So I thought it was a thing where it's like, okay, Torian, you are driving now more often because you now have your own car. You're probably straining your eyes. You need to start wearing your glasses. That was the first thing that came into my head. Anyways, did the police check, made my way back down to my home. Granted, I didn't take the highway because I wasn't comfortable. I had anxiety in terms of I couldn't see, and I was like, I was driving. So this is like in June or whatever, and yeah, I was just like, that was one thing I noticed as well. Like, so now the peeing was happening constantly, and then my vision started to get impaired. So I was like, what's going on? So I remember going into work, and then this was the third thing, sorry, that I noticed. One of my coworkers, she looked at me and she's like, you're getting so skinny. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, really? And I was like, maybe it's just like what I'm cutting up because I'm not drinking, I'm not eating certain things, I'm drinking more water. I'm trying to look good for my birthday. That's what I was like in my head saying. And she was like, yeah, you're looking very skinny. Like, what's happening? And I was like, really? And I'm like, damn, it's working so fast. Like, July 5th is coming. I'm gonna look great. And then I was like, granted, during this time, I'm still using the washroom often. My vision is going in and out. Like, it's not like completely blurred, but like it's going in and out. So I'm like, okay. So at this point, these are the three things that I noticed. Like I was peeing often, I couldn't see, and I was just dropping the little weight that I had on. I was never a big person, so I was just dropping weight. So this is the weekend I did find out, or I was like, okay, something is off. So it was a Friday. I went to Yorkdale, and it was just my normal thing I did. I went to Yorkdale, bought a couple things, and I seen my aunt, and I was talking to my aunt, like we're face to face, we're talking, and I can't forget. I was looking at her and I'm like, I can't see you, auntie. And she's looking at me and she's like, what do you mean? She's like, I'm looking at her, we're face to face, and we're like, I can't see her. Like my vision at that point was like blurred. Can't even speak. But anyways, I couldn't see her. I'm like talking to her face to face, and I'm like, I can't see you. And I remember she's saying, you need to go get your eyes checked because that's not good. And that was that Friday. I left the mall. Saturday, I can't recall. I think I went out Saturday night. I went out with a couple friends. I think I have the video to that. I went out with a couple friends that Saturday. Sunday came around, I would always go to my friend's house, my twin friends. I would always go to their house on a Sunday back in the day. And I remember I was at their house and we're just talking, cutting it up. And I just kept on peeing. I just kept on peeing within our conversation. I just kept on going and peeing, going and peeing. Like the conversation could not like, it couldn't be a substantial conversation because I kept on saying, hold on, I need to go pee. And I remember peeing, and I remember at the last pee, I was like, okay, guys, like, this is so embarrassing. I need to go home. I ended up driving home, and I don't know. I think I Googled it, and I was like, what does peeing mean, or whatever, whatever. And then something popped up on Google, and it was like, oh, you might be diabetic, or whatever, whatever, whatever. So I said it to my mom. I can't forget. I'm like, I think I have diabetes. And my mom's like, what? She's like, why would you say that? I'm like, I was like, I keep on peeing and I can't stop peeing. And she's like, are you itchy? I can't forget. That was something that she said to me. She's like, are you itchy? And I'm like, no. And she's like, yeah, when you're diabetic, or when you find out that you're diabetic, or whatever the case may be, you're normally itchy. Are you itchy? And I'm like, no, I'm not itchy. And she's like, okay, like, well, just book an appointment with our family doctor. This would have been Sunday. So like, she like book an appointment within the week and go check it out. I remember going to watch a movie that night. And I kid you not, I can't remember what the movie was, but I was in the bed and I remember looking up in the ceiling and my eyes were so dry. My eyes were the driest it could have been. Like my eyes were dry, so dry. I went to even to the washroom and like dropped water in my eyes the way my eyes were so dry. And I couldn't understand why my eyes were dry. So I was like, no, something is up. Something is up and I can't put my finger on it. And this would have been like 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning, I was like, something just said, Torian, do not close your eyes and go to bed. Get in your car and go over to the emergency. And I kid you not, 2:30, I got up, jumped in my car, drove over to the emergency. Got to the emergency, and I don't know, I went into the emergency. They normally take your health card, actually what's going on. And I just told them, like, I'm just not feeling good. I don't feel good. Like, I just feel off. And she was, the nurse was like, have you done anything? Have you done anything out of normal? And I'm like, no, just my normal self. I've been my normal self. I just feel off. I've been off. I never told her like months, but I just told her like since the weekend. And she's like, okay, whatever, whatever. We'll put you through to see the doctor. So I'm gonna take a drink of water and get back to you guys. Needed that water break. Sorry about that. So at this point now, where are we? At this point, I'm at the emergency. She scanned me through. I'm waiting to see a doctor. So a nurse comes in, and I think she was like a new nurse. She had to be like a new nurse. So she comes in, asks me my name, asks me what's happening. So I told her, like, at this point, my eyes are so dry. I don't know why my eyes are so dry. They're so dry. I'm not sure what's happening. She asked me if I'm dehydrated. I told her no. She was like, okay, we're gonna draw some blood. And if you know me, you know I am not a fan of drawing blood. That's not my thing. So she drew blood. She drew blood in this arm. And she left and then came back. And then she was like, oh, so it looks like you are actually dehydrated. And then I'm like, okay, what else is it saying? And she wasn't like really talking as much, but she was just like, okay, I'm just gonna infuse your IV. We're gonna have to put in an IV and we're gonna have to infuse your IV. And I'm like, infuse it? But at that time, I didn't understand what she was saying. what she meant by that. So I'm like, okay, like whatever. If you say I'm dehydrated and you have to infuse it, let's do what you have to do. Get me out of here. Because in my head, I'm like, it's Sunday or Monday morning, 2:30 in the morning. I need to be at work in the morning. So I'm like, as fast as I could get out of here and get back to bed, whatever. As I said, I feel like she was a new nurse, or this was her new, like a new shift for her. So she was like, ugh. So anyways, she puts in the IV in terms of me doing, like, getting dehydrated or whatever the case may be. But she was like, also, she's like, I need to prick your finger. So at this point, when she's like, I need to prick your finger, I'm like, prick my finger. I'm like, lady, you already have an IV in my hand. You drew some blood. Why you need to prick my finger? So anyway, she pricked my finger, and it was like a little machine. So I remember she pricking my finger, and granted, I still have an IV in my arm. So she pricked my finger, and to be honest, I don't remember the number. I don't remember the number or whatever, but I just remember her pricking my finger and like storming out. So at this point, like, I have an IV in my hand. I'm sitting inside like the little like room or whatever. So I'm like, this is so annoying. So I'm there, and then now she comes back with now another lady. So like, this is a Caribbean lady, a Jamaican lady. She was like, she sees, I guess she shows her the thing, because at this point she already pricked my finger. She shows the lady the thing, and the lady's like, he needs to go on another IV. So I look at her and I'm like, I have one IV in. I'm like, where's the other IV gonna go? She's like, in this arm. So I looked at her and I'm like, and then she was like, I need a pee sample also. So I'm like, I have one IV right here. You want to put another IV right here, and then you want me to go pee? I'm like, lady, I'm like, mm-mm. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm like, at this point, I'm like, what's going on? Like, you know? So she's like, she looks at me and she like thinks like I'm joking, because I'm like, what's going on? Because you guys are stressing me out at this point, because at this point, you just want to prick me up. So she's like, as a matter of fact, let's prick his finger one more time. So I'm like, lady. So they prick my finger again. They prick my finger again. And at this point, this is where I seen 46 or 45. 46 or 45. I don't know which one the number was, but I just remember seeing 40 and whatever. So then I see that number, and she looks at me. She's like, how are you feeling? And I'm looking at her and I'm like, I feel fine. And she's like, what did she say? She's like, how did you get here? She's like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I'm feeling fine. I'm like, how did you get here? And I'm like, I drove. And she's like, she was like stunned in my eye. Like, she was stunned that I said that I drove. And she's like, no, like, put him on another IV, because this, and then she like left. So at this point, they put me on another IV now. So I have 2 IVs in my hand. They want me to go take a pee sample. So I'm walking with the 2 IVs, go to the washroom, I pee, come back, give them the sample. So at this point now I have 2 IVs in my hand. So I'm like sitting there like, okay, what is going on? Like, now I'm freaking out. So now the actual doctor comes in. So he comes in, and he flips the chart. He's like, are you Taurian, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes. And he's like, so, and this is exactly what he did. He looks, he's like, so it looks like you have diabetes. And then he flips again. Granted, when he says that, I don't say anything. He flips again and he's like, and be prepared to be here, or you're going to get admitted. Be prepared to be here for, I think he was like 3 days or 4 days, something like that. So then at this point, after he flips it, I look at him and I'm like, I have work at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I can't have diabetes. And I kid you not, the man looked at me, like, he dropped the paper and he looked at me And he's like, you're thinking about work right now? And he just walked right out. And then when he walked right out, I think it now just seeped into my brain. Like, I have, I was just like, what? So at this point now, they're getting ready to admit me. Like, okay, like put him on a bed. We're gonna usher him up to a room. Like the whole, I am being admitted to the hospital. And I'm like, at this point, I'm in the hospital and I'm like, I came over here thinking I'm gonna come back, right? Sorry guys. Um, Let me catch myself. Um, where am I? At that point I thought, like, I just came over here just to see what was wrong. Never did I think I was gonna get admitted. Like, I'm like, what? So at this point, it's like minutes to 3 or like 3:30ish. And I'm sitting there in the emergency all alone because never did I think this was going to be a thing. Sitting in the emergency all alone and just thinking like, my parents are home sleeping, my siblings are home sleeping, my friends are home sleeping, and I'm in the emergency with 2 IVs in my hand and this man telling me that I'm diabetic. Sorry guys. This is why I didn't want to do this story time. But anyways, let's do it, Tori. You got this. At this point, I have the 2 IVs in my hand, and they kept on doing like pricks. So like I remember she came back, she pricked my finger. I remember she pricked my finger. This would have been like 3:40ish around, I think around that time she pricked my finger. And from the 46 I remember seeing, or the 45, it dropped to 36. They still had me on a bed. At this point, my body is like running cold. Like at this point, I'm so cold because like they have these IVs in my arm and I'm just like on the bed. I had on like a thermal and like a track pants. Like that's it. It was like June 20 something, like 22nd or something, 21st. But my body's just running cold because I'm like, oh my God, like they're pumping these IVs through my vein. But anyways, so I'm sitting there, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what is going on? Like, this can't be me right now. And I think I even have a video of me staying there. And I think this is the video right here. And I'm just like, this can't be me. Like, this can't be me. And I remember now this is like around 4:30ish, they pricked my finger again. And then it dropped to 22. It dropped to 22, but in my head, or to them, they're still saying like, be prepared to be admitted, whatever the case may be. So at this point, the IVs are still in my arm, but like I have like blood, a little bit of blood on like my clothes. So I'm like, you know what? I need to call my mom. And I remember calling my mom. And my mom, she woke up, and I'm like, Mom, I'm at the emergency. I'm such a crybaby. Sorry, guys. I'm like, Mom, I'm at the emergency. You need to come get my car, and you need to bring me like a tracksuit because they're telling me that I have diabetes, and I'm going to be admitted for a week or whatever the case may be. And like in her, I don't think she comprehended, but she's like, okay, I'm coming, like whatever the case may be. So I made that call, and I think I called my friend Monica. I think I called her, and I'm like, I'm in the hospital, and they say I have diabetes. And I remember her in her sleep, and she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah. I don't know, like I was just like I didn't know who else to call, so I just called her. And I'm a person like I don't look for sympathy, but I just needed someone to call. But like I realized like it's like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. People are sleeping. Oh. So I was just like, go back to sleep. I'm like, go back to sleep, but I'm like, I just had to call. And she's like, call me in the morning or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, yeah. So at this point, they prick my finger one more time. This is before my mom comes. And at that time, the last time it was 22 and then it dropped to like 17. I remember it being at 17 and they were like, okay, the doctor comes back at this point before my mom comes, and he's like, so it looks like you'll be discharged, so you could go home, but you have to come back. It wasn't because at this point it's Monday. He's like, you have to come back. They wrote up prescriptions, so I had to go get like the monitor and all of that stuff the day, but I had a doctor appointment on the Tuesday. So he's explaining to me that's what's gonna have to happen. After speaking to him, like after he spoke to me, then like it just so happened my mom came. So my mom came and she gave me, she's like, what's going on? Like, so I broke it down to her and I was telling her, and she was just like, it's fine, like, you know, whatever, whatever. So at this point, they discharged me. Sorry. I apologize, guys, for getting so emotional. But yeah, at this point, I get discharged, and my mom is driving us home, and I remember just like, I can't believe this is happening to me. Like, I'm in my head, I'm like racking my brain, like, how is this happening? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, and I wasn't like connecting. I couldn't understand what was happening. And my mom, being the Jamaican parent she is, she just, at the crack of dawn, because at this point where it's like 8 something now, she couldn't wait. And at the time, my grandmother was still with us. She was the first person she called. Guess what? Torin has diabetes. And it's just like, from there, my grandmother calls my aunts, then they call me, and it's just like a whole thing. And I remember telling my mom, like, I just want to keep it low key. Like, I don't want it to be a thing, whatever. And I remember calling work, and I'm just a person, like, I don't take off work. Like, I will go to work on my sick bed. And I remember calling work and saying, like, you know, this is the situation. And they're like, Torian, take all the time you need. And I think I only took 2 days. I think I was back at work on Wednesday. But I remember having to now change my whole life. And having diabetes is the craziest thing, because it's like, granted, at the time I was 26. I was living my life carefree, not like having any like set cares when it came to health. Like, you know, I was just like doing whatever, and just now being stumped with this disease in the sense. And it was just like what? And I remember leading in my head, I'm like, my birthday's approaching. Like, what is this? Like, how am I gonna do this? And I remember going to my doctor's appointment the Tuesday, and the doctor coming in, and she's like, I'm here to see Torian. And I'm like, that's me. And she's like, you have diabetes? And I'm like looking, because at this point, like, my stature is like slim. I'm a slim guy. Never been a big guy. So she's like, you have diabetes? And I'm like, that's what they're saying. So she's breaking down, like, you know, what I need to start doing. They put me on medication. I have a dietitian at this point. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. This is my life. I can't believe like this is my life. So at this point, I'm like, these are the cards that are dealt. Like, this is going to be my life, or this is my life. This would have been the ending of June. My birthday would have been the next big thing. So I remember just like my friends coming out, and I remember it just being, and granted, all my friends at this point know that I'm diabetic, but I remember it just being overly special to me because just like living with it, you as a 26 turning 27, at that time I turned 27, I didn't know what this was. Like, you know, I'm like sitting here like I was living my life perfectly, and boom, everything has changed. And I don't want to sit here and dwell and be like, oh, like poor me, because I feel like I've lived my life still to this day without like being the woes me type of thing. But yeah, it was a special day. That day I remember just having a great old time, and I remember everyone just being there, and just the love was just real. After that, it was just like just discipline. Like I was just disciplined. I remember going around with a whole lunch bag, of Roots lunch bag, with all my lunch, my dinner, snacks, stuff like that. Like, so pretty much I want to wrap up. Like, it doesn't go, the story doesn't get any juicier. I feel like this is how I became or found out I was diabetic. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm the poster child for being diabetic, and I don't want you guys to watch this and be like, oh, you're diabetic, but I've seen you take shots and I've seen you done this. I don't want to sit here and, as I said, be like I am the poster child. Granted, this is my life, and I know what I have to do in order to manage my diabetes. So I've definitely indulged in things that I shouldn't indulge in, if that makes sense. But in the same token, I do know that my health is important. So I say this to say we all live with certain things that we have to deal with. And I just wanted to let you guys in on my journey on being a diabetic. And this is just what I have to go through. So that's why I also say, like, this YouTube channel is not so much about buying clothes and putting looks together. I'm also dealing with health concerns and just dealing with how to manage, because I'm still learning. I'm 32, and I'm still learning about this whole diabetes thing. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. I hope you guys, sorry. I am sorry that I teared up a little bit, but I mean, I still get emotional about even finding up and leading up to it, because I think about that night. Like, what if I closed my eyes that night? Like, you know, I think about certain things because I remember the nurse saying, like, you know, you driving over here is crazy, because if you would have closed your eyes, you could have probably slipped into a coma. And I feel like that plays in my head all the time. So, as I said, the story time was somewhat of a hard thing to make, because I was like, do I want to let everyone know? Do I want to just like let it just flow? Like, and I was like, I get it all the time. A lot of people see me and be like, oh, you're so skinny and what's up? Like, you know, I like, you hear certain things, and I just want to, like, before anyone makes any type of assumptions about me, I want to just make it clear, like, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is my life. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I would love you guys to like, comment, and subscribe on this story. And I will see you guys. Peace.